Yes, that's right, I'm here to cover with you the current world record run for the Guild Boss battle, clocking in of a rage count of 12, and also a final score in a single run of 5.436 billion. Have you ever seen something as crazy as this? I do want to give a big shout out to iDOS. It's because of him that we have this run available. He shared the strats, he shared the build, he shared everything that's involved with this run. So I do want to cover with you. He has no social media, he's literally the Shadow Monarch, breaking world records behind the scenes. So I do want to recognize him just a bit because that's all I can do, I can say him by name. So a big shout out to you because look at these scores, 1.5 billion on Cha, 1 billion on Mirai, and 1 billion on Go. Let's go over exactly what he does, the build, the run itself, and also some very interesting glitches he takes advantage of. This is something new to me as well. I've seen it happen before, but I never really clocked it in until I saw him explain it to me. So again, a big shout out to iDOS. Let's go over everything you need to know to get a score like this. But as a reminder, if you want more Soul Loving Rights content like this, make sure you subscribe. We're almost at the 100,000 mark, so press that button, that way we reach the milestone together. And also, if you haven't yet, make sure to support, it's free, the link is down below. When you support, I get to send codes directly to you. You can find them right here in the top right. When you press my page, you scroll down, the codes will be sent to you. So far we have 2 codes, if you support now, you'll still get them. And then we have 3 more codes coming up in the future, so just stay tuned, we'll have some awesome rewards for everyone who is supporting. So again, a huge shout out to iDOS, the Shadow Monarch, literally in the shadows, beating world records by himself. He has no social media or YouTube, but he's on our Discord server, so if you want to join, you should. We have the largest community, you're missing out if you haven't just yet. We do have community events as well, I'm even in them as you can see. We're playing games, chatting along, it's a pretty good time, so make sure you join. The link is down below of course. But first off, let me show you the build iDOS used, so very standard. With Jinwoo on our team using Moonshadow and Grimoire. We have Malin, we have Cha and Go on Team A, Mirai, Hansem, and Choi on Team B. And in Team C, we have Alicia, we have Libora and Min. These are currently the best team loadouts if you're going a support Jinwoo build. Using Moonshot and Grimoire is obviously ideal. These provide the best bonuses to Jinwoo and also his team. But now let's hop into every individual Hunter's Artifact build. Very important you get it right. And then we'll go over the run itself so you know exactly what to do. So for Go, amazing stats right here. 25,000 defense, but what is he running? As you can see, he is not going all greed, he is not going all curse, he's going a split, 4 greed, 4 curse for the max amount of damage. He is getting the benefit of the greed set, but also the 20% force set effect of curse. As you can see, 1-2 curse, 1-2 curse, 2 greed, 2 greed. Doesn't matter what sets you use on each side, you'll get the bonus regardless of course. But this provided him the most damage, and if you want to see his stats right here, if you're curious, you can see his crit damage, his defense, his crit rate. Overall his Go is very nicely built. Next up we have Choi. On Choi, he's using the Blessing set. He has a bit of attack, not too bad, 20,000, overall decent. Crit damage and crit rate don't matter, but the attack is basically all we look at, with defense, pen, and damage increase. Overall, not a bad set of stats there. For his next hunter, we have Mirai. Mirai has close to 24,000 attack, a very strong showing of course, and when it comes to artifact stats, very standard. For Curse, for Expert, that results in the most damage possible. I recommend everyone use this for any hunter that's DPS, so on Mirai, on Cha, on Alicia, and you'll see on Libora, she doesn't actually use the Curse set. That's because a lot of the time, you're basically running out of good Curse artifacts you have available, so you have to use something else, and we'll cover that shortly. But here are Mirai's stats, fantastic crit, crit damage, and tons of attack. One thing I do want to mention is, a lot of the time you'll see on these top tier players, they actually have not 50% crit, but around that mark. That's just because it's really hard to get exactly the 50% mark without going over, so going a bit under is actually beneficial because you can get the other stats and something else like attack or even defense pen, damage increase, etc. So don't worry too much by getting 50% exactly. You can actually lose stats by doing so. So 45%, 46, etc. is just fine. Next up we have Cha. His Cha has 25.5 thousand attack. Insane. She deals so much damage. 50% crit, 185% crit damage, and some other bonus stats here. Overall, a fantastic Cha. Look at that. 8, 8, 8, 8 for defense pen. Those are some lucky numbers. Moving on, as you can see, what I mentioned earlier, going 4 Curse and 4 Expert, the best for DPS, the same thing for Alicia, decent attack, and for the sets in a second you'll see, just like Cha, just like Mireille, running the 4 Curse, 4 Expert set, and you can see again, 48% crit, not yet at the 50% mark, just because you do lose out on stats if you choose to do that, so 48% is fine. And other stats you can see here for your reference, same sets, but you have to remember, it doesn't actually matter if you use a heroic item here. You can see he does have 1 heroic piece. That's just because it's honestly very hard getting perfect legendary artifacts. That is for a set you plan on using on so many hunters, so using heroics is just fine. Just make sure they do have the correct stats, and also, you'll see here, Libora, she's using the toughness set. Based on iDOS testing, Libora performed much better using the toughness set than with the curse set, so that's why he chose this over curse. Not because he ran out of curse artifacts, but because he had a much higher damage result from it. Expert 2, of course. Expert is seriously one of the best, if not best, set in the game. And for the stats, overall very strong. 23.2k attack, very, very powerful. And here are the other stats as well for your reference. Overall, a very strong DPS lineup so far. And when it comes to his support units, you'll see the Guardian set and Sylph's Blessing is used very often. That's because when it comes to Hansame, she procs the Guardian set for every single team as long as they have the Guardian set. They don't have to be the originators to use a shield. As long as they get a shield effect, they get this 10% damage up bonus, so that's why it's one of the best sets out there, and Sylph's Blessing providing us up to a 15% elemental type damage increase. Perfect. One of the strongest sets. Same with Min, running the Guardian set. Sylph's Blessing, overall, one of the best set combinations. And you'll see with Min, super important that you get the most crit damage possible because of his ultimate. This makes his ultimate even better because it does technically scale off crit damage, so it's perfect. And for mailing, you have to remember, you do want to rage speed to, I believe, the 32,000 mark to maximize on a weapon. You want the maximum bonus applied, so you just want HP on mail-in, super important. And for artifacts, very simple. We use the same sets we use on Min and Hansame. Going with the Guardian set and Sylph's Blessing, that provides the best bonus to Team A, giving us that beautiful 1 billion plus damage result. That's basically it for all our hunters. You can see exactly what they're using. And now we have Jinwoo, of course. Aside from his weapons, let's go over the artifact sets and the runes. Super important. But first off, you can see for his stats, he went all intelligence. That's because the more points you have in intelligence, the more cooldowns you get. So your cooldown reduction goes up, which means you can spam your skills more often, which is vital for the guild boss. And for artifacts, you can see we're using the Burning Blessing set, buffing up our team A, that being if Go and Cha, making sure they deal tons of damage. Here are the stats, not too important. Jinwoo isn't necessarily dealing damage, so we just want the correct blessing stones. In this case, we have Bloodlust, we have Reawakening, and we have We Are One. This provides so many bonuses to our team, because Bloodlust does lower the dragon's defense, it's vital. And with We Are One, we're getting a 5% HP, defense, and attack bonus. Perfect for Go, perfect for Cha. And we also have weakness detection, but from my understanding, this does not apply to our hunters. But again, I'll clarify that in the comments if that's not the case. Just using it for some minor bonus damage. Because with Reap, we don't need more dashes. We already get so many shouts that's applied. So more damage won't hurt in our case. Getting every little bit out of Jinwoo. And for our skills, very standard, minus Reap. Usually we see the Crushing Blow skill, lowering our cooldowns, boosting our power gauge, so we can spam our ultimates more, getting the Blessing set effect applied, but in this case, we're using Reap because it does have a glitch you can apply to basically spam Shadow Steps, constantly having defense reduction off. I'll show you one of the most amazing things I've seen in a very long time. And armor break, standard, we get a damage increase on the target, overall very strong, providing a bonus to our entire team for providing more DPS on the guild boss. So now let's hop into the guild boss. First thing he does, very interesting, he actually turns off the hunter's automatic ultimate use, but he turns it back on after. I'll show you. Super interesting. I'll show you why. So first off, he turns it off. He jumps in, uses Grimoire to get the erosion effect off. You can see there. And after using his Grimoire skill, getting the erosion off, he uses the armor break skill, getting the damage increase applied to the target. Make sure hunters deal the most damage possible. And then he waits for the rage. Once the rage hits, he dodges, and then he uses Shadow Step, using Moon Shadow, and then waiting for hunters to deal a ton of damage. You'll see here, stacking up as much damage as he can with Reap, doing auto attacks, building up any damage he can, and then he waits for the dragon to do that scream move where he can Shadow Step again. Very good run so far. Then very standard. I'm going to lower it to 0.5% speed just because it's a bit fast. There we go. So Grimoire comes out next. After Grimoire, same thing, dash out of the animation, use the Unbreak skill, getting the damage taken increase effect being applied right here, you can see. And then Moon Shadow should come up here. Very good for the timing. Now watch this. Watch very carefully. He's going to use his ultimate very soon. Wait for it. It's going to come right about here. When the dragon uses its move, you'll see. Once the animation kicks in, he'll go ahead and use his ultimate right here. That's because he's timing his ultimate, because as you know or you didn't know, Jinu's ultimate resets the guild boss's skill order. So after a swipe right here, it'll swipe again, you'll see. So the ultimate, and that'll go through. Let me skip it. It's a fairly long animation. So after he does this, the blessing set gets applied, and watch what he does. He'll pause the match from what I remember. He'll pause it right here, yeah. And then he'll turn back all the ultimates, making sure the blessing set is applied. But that's not the reason he turned on to manual and then back to auto. It's because for some reason, when our hunters use their ultimates on Team A, it cancels the Moon Shadow slow effect, and it also cancels all the damage bonuses. That's what he told me. So to maximize 100 damage, this is the route to take. Make sure you do it. That way you get the most damage possible. So back on auto, our hunters can take care of themselves using your ultimates right here. And then he continues the run using Shadow Step. And one thing I do want to mention is with Shadow Step, when you use Reap, it is actually glitched, and I'll show you. Either he does it here or later on. I'll be sure to highlight it so you understand what I'm talking about. It's basically a glitch, super interesting, but continuing to run. Very standard from here on. Moon Shadow, using his skills, and you saw there, what I mentioned. Did you notice his Shadow Step was on cooldown, but he used it again? What happened there? Well, let me explain. Let me just rewind so you understand. This is vital for maximum damage. So if we go back, let me show you here. So we use Reap. Let me just go back a bit more, going forward. So watch very carefully. You can see here he's going to time his Reap absolutely perfect. So he's using Shadow Step immediately. Very fast on his timing. Then he's going back, like I mentioned earlier, to turn on his ultimates. But watch this. Watch the timer. When it hits 5 seconds, super important you pay attention. Watch very carefully, still on cooldown. And boom, it's back up. He used Shadow Step, applying defense reduction yet again. This is what I call a top tier move. It's a glitch of Reap when it comes to Shadow Step. You can use Shadow Step twice. No idea why, but you can do it. Maximizing, seriously, on all the damage you can output. And then very standard from then on. So I do want to make sure you do this. Use Reap, use the double Shadow Step strat. He mentioned to me, he just holds down the shift key when the timer is coming up. That way he won't miss it, so try it out. It will work. I tried it too, and it's seriously insane. So after that, the run is fairly standard, but there is one more thing I do want to show you. So I'm just going to let the run play out here. Overall, very standard from what we saw earlier, using Grimoire, using the Shadow Steps when he can, using that glitch, using the Unbreak skill to get the damage bonuses off. But when it comes to the guild boss, and the break animation, as you know, it goes in that break state where when you break the boss, it goes down for a short time period, but during that time period, we're losing out on so much damage, which is not ideal. I flirted with it in the past, not breaking the boss, and that's exactly what iDOS does. You'll see that very shortly, so let's continue with the run. We're just gonna have it play out again, super standard, making sure he applies every bonus he can. Very, very good. But as you can see in this run, the most important thing is timings. You want to make sure you get all your timings correct. You want to make sure Moon Shadow is always off when stacked, of course, like Grimoire. Use your ultimate when you see your hunter ultimates coming up, and also make sure to use it on time. Don't save it. I do see that a lot. People forget to ultimate. Super important to use it. The Burning Blessing set provides so much damage bonus to Team A. It is vital, but everything else in this run is standard minus. In a few seconds, you'll see when it comes to the break counter, you avoid it. You do not want to break, and he actually does avoid it by dashing out of his armor break animation. Super, super interesting. When I saw it, I was like, yes, I totally agree. That's what we should do, because when it comes to the dragon, when you don't break it, it does that scream move. You can't dodge it, but you can use Reap to counter it. That's why Reap is so good for this run. You'll see. Just watch carefully. All these Shadow Steps, all these combinations, super vital. But shortly it'll come up. There we go, the break. Watch his armor break come up, and he actually avoids using it. Watch very carefully. Let me go to 0.5% speed after the ultimate. The animation is a bit long, so give me a second. I'll pause it in just a moment. Not pause, reduce the playback speed. So 0.5% speed. Watch. The arm break skill is going to come up, and boom, he uses it, but he dashes out of it before the break applies. A high IQ move right there, and watch. The break gauge isn't going to go down, and boom, the dragon goes into rage mode. He uses Reap, gets the Shadow Step off where you normally couldn't, so that's why. Make sure to time your Shadow Steps, get all those Reaps off, otherwise you're losing out on so much damage, and boom, the glitch again. 2 Shadow Steps, back to back, on cooldown still. That's how you get the maximum damage possible. Oh, what a wonderful run. iDOS, why were you not in the tournament? We should have seen you play. Your timings are fantastic. So, W in the chat for iDOS. In the comment section, that is. Totally forgot we're not streaming, but let me go back to normal playback. Boom, bam. And let's enjoy this run here. Very nice. Again, thank you, iDOS. You are truly the Shadow Monarch for this world record run. Amazing. Literally, such an amazing feat. Yes, I know, whales, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. I've seen whales with the same account get half his score on their best run possible. This is not easy to do, trust me. This is very high skill capped. He's an amazing player. And if you have Guild Boss battle runs like this, let me know. If you have any tips or tricks, of course, that we can share with the community. So, hope you enjoyed. Again, a big shout out to iDOS, the Shadow Monarch. What an absolutely amazing run. 5.4 billion. I've never seen such a large score on the Guild Boss. Hopefully myself, I can reach that mark because this is truly an amazing score that I want to achieve myself. So on that note, make sure you subscribe, drop a like, do all that jazz. Big shout out to iDOS, and again, make sure to subscribe. That way we reach the 100,000 mark. And don't forget to support us on Netmarble Supporter Program. It's free. You get free codes by doing so. The link is down below. That way you won't miss out. And finally, a big shout out to Hal for being the first comment to our last video. Here is your shout out to enjoy your juicy Discord role. And on that note, that's all I have for you today. This is your Code King Zaf signing out.